everybody. Welcome to the episode. Today, we are going to talk about exercise, which isn't actually something I struggled with in my eating disorder. But, Safia, it is something that you experienced and had to tackle and overcome in your recovery. So, I think mainly today it will be me asking you questions to learn more from you about what it was like and how you overcame it, what goals you set, what the experience was like, that kind of thing. So, would it be okay to start with what exercise looked like for you and also how you knew that it was a problem?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about this topic because I think it impacts so many people, and still don't think there's ever enough out there about it, especially compared to how much it is like pushed in society of this need to exercise. There sometimes isn't enough about like when it can become a problem and when it can become detrimental, when it can actually impact your mental, physical, social health, everything. So I do think this is such an important topic to talk about. So growing up, exercise very much part of my life, my household, my childhood. But then when my eating disorder developed, it just took a completely different hold. It was nothing joyful about it. And it had, when I was younger, there was a time when movement was joyful, where I'd be in the netball teams or the cross country team or whatever, and it wasn't an issue. But when my eating disorder developed, it became really detrimental in so many ways. And I went through different phases of different types of movement, all very cardio based. And it was all around trying to like burn calories to feel like then I could earn food. And it wasn't even just about the earning food, it was also about when your eating disorder develops. I don't know if you remember this part, Meg, but like you feel extremely anxious, there's tons of rigidity and it's very stressful. Exercise also acted as a way for me able to like manage that.
Mm.
And so I felt like if I didn't exercise, I was like, I just didn't trust the person that I'd become. I was like, I'll become an even worse version of myself. I'm going to stress people out even more because I'm going to be so stressy and edgy. It was like a way to take off the edge. And the funny thing is, then you're kind of like stuck in this loop of like, if I don't exercise, I'm anxious and edgy. And then that cycle's got to keep repeating itself, because it's the only tool you're using to manage any stress that you're dealing with. But also, I think a lot of that anxiety and edginess came from the fact that I was undernourished. I was hungry. I was starved. Of course, my body was edgy. It was like, do something, get some food. But instead of like getting the food, going to the kitchen and making food, I was like going to the gym, going for a walk, going this, whatever.
Mm.
So then that just
And
kept me in.
probably the exercise was creating stress on your body as well.
Massively. Exactly, because exactly when you exercise, even though you see it as something that is maybe a stress relief, like your body doesn't interpret it like that. Like like the cortisol levels like shoot up because it's like, oh, you need to run from something, like on that kind of like biological level, it's like, okay, we need to run from the lion or whatever. Like cortisol goes up high, it sees it as a stress. And that's why I think as well, like that impacts things like your periods. My periods went for so long. And I think more than the food issues, it was actually the movement. Even when I was a quote unquote healthy weight and I was eating my 3 meals and 3 snacks and I was more freer with food, because I still had this attachment to movement, like my periods didn't come back for quite a long time. I've had other clients who have got issues with movement and their periods have come back earlier. So it's not necessarily like that's a thing that always happens. But like just to say that if you're thinking like, why is my periods not going back? I'm eating enough and that sort of thing. It can be the stress around movement even. It could be not even the movement, because trying to fit it in is so stressful. Oh my gosh.
Mm.
It would be like, so usually people who've got issues with movement, you kind of do it at a similar time through the week or in a day. And then, so for me, it was in the morning. I'd want to do it in the morning. At one point, it was the morning, and other times it was after work. But the times when it was in the morning, I'd be stressing so much the night before that I need to get up in the morning and I need to do this and I need to put my body through this torture. It was never enjoyable movement. It was never mindful. It was always like literally, I don't know, felt like torturing my body for a certain amount of time. And then other times when I used to do it later on in the day because I was working, the whole day I'd be thinking, oh my God, I've got to do this later. Got to do this later. And so it was just like this constant background noise of like, you've got to do this. And it felt like all day I just needed to, there was no ease in my day. There was no calm in the day. I needed to just rush from one thing to the other to make sure that I had time later on to get this done. And then tick, it was done. So then I got to enjoy the fact that it was over with.
Cool.
And then you know how we talk about like the checklists all coming back up again. It was just the next day it all just came back up again. Didn't matter that I didn't done it the day before. It just all yeah, started again and all another list of things that I needed to do.
Amazing, because hearing that, it just sounds awful. I'm like, that just sounds like it's so not working. And if it's that you dread it and it's such a horrible
Yeah,
part of your day and you're just getting through, like just living life to get through, like to me, that just sounds
get
awful
through.
because I didn't experience that. I can apply it to other things and like see how it could happen. But isn't it
Yeah.
like, amazing you can end up in that cycle of like you so believe you've got to do it, yet from an outsider looking at that, it just sounds awful.
Awful. And something you would never say to anybody else. You would never say this routine is really, really healthy. Like, and you know, and as a result, you cancel that you can't ever go to. I never like met up with friends. I didn't have friends in all honesty because I was never somebody who was able to, meet up and be flexible or if they ever needed me, be there because I had this like routine that I just could never break. And it was like, even when I'd go on holiday, it would be like I'd need to know where in the where could I move, where could I exercise? Like did it have a like people got when you'd go on holiday and you're looking for like a nice hotel, like oh, is it by the beach? Is it got a nice restaurants nearby? No, I'd be like, let me check out the gym facilities and let me zoom in on different parts. It's like what? Um, and it was honestly like, I think the biggest part for me of wanting to get better because I was like, I just don't want this to ruin my life anymore. I don't want it to be the first thought that it was basically running everything. It
Mm.
really was.
It's
It was not enjoyable at all.
a bit like you'd get food noise then. You almost had like exercise noise,
Yeah.
like the planning of it, it being on your mind all the time, dreading it, getting through it. I guess it must have been tied to food as well, was it? Like the balancing.
Yeah, it was tied to food because there's like almost this like need to eat just enough to be able to manage the exercise, like because if you didn't eat enough, then it would be pu beyond torture. Like you wouldn't even be able to kind of do it. But then if you didn't do it, it felt like, well, then I don't deserve the food. It's just mental.
Mm,
Like even though your body is doing so many different things day in and day out to keep you alive. But no, that bit of exercise is what determines whether you deserve food. It was just honestly absolutely exhausting. And what you were saying about the noise is so true. You know how when you have an eating disorder, you're worrying all the time like what somebody else is eating and conscious about that. We were talking about that, weren't we? About in one of our one-to-ones for the recovery and action course coming up, what somebody was very bravely telling us that like she's very conscious about the way somebody else eats in her family, and that's very stressful for her. We both experienced it. It's just an eating disorder behavior, by the way. But I was the same for movement. Like, if my husband was like, "Oh, I'm going to football," I'd
ah,
be like, "Why are you going to football? Do you have to go to football? How long are you going to football?" Da, 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 da. Like, I need to know his exercise plans. Or
mm,
like, um, yeah, and it's he's going to football tonight. I'm not doing anything. I'm staying at home. I'll probably be asleep, to be honest. And like, it doesn't impact me. So like, there is always hope, but that. I didn't like that bit of the fact of like caring so much about what he was doing as well. Like I wanted to be free from that.
hmm. So what was it like? There must be something in it. Like, what was the reason you wanted in
Mm.
that moment to keep doing it? Or was it just that you have to, you have to?
You feel so anxious when you don't do it.
Okay.
There's like, it's kind of like, you know how you talk about the itchy feeling in relation to food?
Mm,
It's like that. You literally just, that you want to rip your, like you say, you want to rip your skin off. I wanted to rip my skin off. Like it was so itchy and anxious. And like I was like, I had to do it. It was so ingrained in me as something that I needed to do. And then it becomes so much part of my routine. It's what I did, it's who I was. Like that's what I would do. I would wake up in the morning and that's what I would do on the weekend. Like I wasn't somebody who would have a lay-in. Like that's how, and then that's who you think you are. And you think that if you start your day without doing that, then maybe like you're going to not be your full version of yourself. You're not going to be the happy version of yourself. You're not going to be bouncy. You're always going to be stressed all day. Or if you're somebody who does it later on in the day, then I'd get stressed about whether I could sleep properly if I didn't do it. Like there was, despite knowing that like what needs to sleep well is to eat enough and to rest, and you don't need to like batter your body to do that. But there was just so many fears of the like what ifs,
Mm.
kind of like with food, right? Like of the what ifs. There was a different set for this.
Hmm. And how did you tackle that then? Like, was it at first a case of realizing those are the what ifs and like looking at how it was destructive to your life, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it was firstly realizing how destructive it was to my life. Like the biggest one for me was that it was massively impacting my fertility. Like I couldn't, no doctor told me that, by the way. And I went to fertility doctors. Nobody said that. Or the only advice I've ever been given is exercise, do this, do that. The only person who's ever told me that maybe it's a good idea not to, outside of like my husband, is Kareem. And so grateful for her for like helping me tackle that. But I realized like I was never going to be able to get pregnant and have a baby. So that was a big incentive for me. And then as I was working on that incentive, as you know, for me, like that big goal was a big goal for me. But then I had all these little goals pop up along the way. Like, isn't it nice to be able to go to bed and not think what I have to do tomorrow and not to be anxious about what if I don't hit that many calories burnt or that much distance done or that much whatever? What if I just wake up in the morning and allow myself to rest, stay in my pajamas, like did that, or go for breakfast, or I don't know, just whatever without feeling like first I have to earn that.
Mm.
Like, and I think so as I was challenging it, I realized how much freer my life had become and how I'd literally, if I had an image to describe how it felt, I literally felt like I was shackled to exercise. Like I felt like it was just something that was completely ruling my life. Like I felt like I couldn't go on a holiday. I remember even like one Christmas, my mom being like, can you, because I was in my 20s, I was living independent. She's like, for Christmas, can everybody come over the night before and we all stay together and we all be together and wake up on Christmas morning together? And I was like, no, no, no. Because I was like, there's no way I can do that because I've got to exercise before I go over to their house because otherwise I'm going to be a rubbish person and there's going to be a load of food on Christmas Day and. And so like it just, it impacted so many areas of my life. And something to say as well, like my exercise, by the way, if I told it to anybody, they'd be like, that's not that much. Isn't that like the quoted healthy amount or within it or less than? But I honestly think it does not matter how much you're doing or what you're doing, it is the hold that it has on your life. There's somebody that could be like doing tons and they don't care whether they do it from one day to the next. And it doesn't cause them any anxiety and it's genuinely joyful and they're eating enough and all of these things and their periods are still happening and their body's not. But for me, I had less. I was doing, I would say a small amount compared to like what people recommend, but the hold it had on my life and the stress that it caused around it, that was the disorder. I think that's the issue. And it compromised my life as a result.
Yeah, I love that you've said that like
Mm.
objectively it doesn't need to be a certain amount.
No,
It's like the subjective or the impact for you, the personal, how it impacts you kind of thing. It doesn't matter what somebody next to you is doing. If it's
no.
like, because also as well, like some shame around that of like, oh, but I'm not even doing enough. So how could it be a problem for me? Or that person's doing more and they're managing their life just
Yeah.
fine. But I guess that it doesn't matter. Like what is true is what you have and how it impacts you and what your life looks like. And the associations you're making, I guess, as well. Like if you're tying it to food and if it's not flexible and if it's like taking up too much time and too much headspace and you absolutely have to do it and your worth is tied to it and your mood is tied to it and all of that, then it's kind of crept in to too many facets of your life.
Exactly, exactly. It's as with everything, I think, with recovery, it's all about the intention behind something, like why you're doing. Like one person can order a salad, fine. Like they fancy a salad, they fancy something fresh. That's just what they feel like. They're not having it every day, not having it because they have to, compared to somebody who's ordering a salad because they're petrified of everything else on the menu and they feel like it's the only choice they can have, and they're trying to take off all the bits that make a salad tasty. Like it's all about the intention, I think, behind something. Same thing. Two people can go for a walk. One person can be like, I just feel like some fresh air. I feel like being around nature. Like I'm not tracking. I'm not counting. I don't care if somebody stops on the way and has a little chat to me and that makes me pause my walk. I don't mind if somebody comes with me, whatever. Compared to the person who's like militant about it, tracking, timing, counting, specific, don't talk to me, in my own zone, I'm hungry, I actually just want to get this over and done with. Like it's a completely two different experiences, same activity, two different experiences. And so I think that's the thing is stopping and noticing like what is your experience around all of this? And this is something that I get to do with clients because, well, exercise makes me happy, Safia. Okay, let's think about like how are you feeling before you move? So we do an exercise journal of like before, during, and after. So like what are you feeling before? Are you feeling excited about moving? Are you feeling joyful? Are you feeling curious about what you're going to do? Or are you feeling like anxious, got to get this done? What if I don't get it done? What if I don't hit the amount? I'm tired, legs are sore, I'm hungry. Like what's going on? How are you feeling afterwards? Because I would have said, like, during, I was not enjoying it. It was pure torture. I was tired. My legs were aching. And my muscles ached a lot, probably because I wasn't eating enough. Um, my husband was like, "Do you remember when you used to just stop in the middle of the road and stretch?" I was like, "No." Oh yeah. It's just like my body was just so tired and sore all the time. But even if it wasn't sore and it wasn't tired, like it's about your experience of how much you're doing something. But anyway, afterwards, I would say that then I felt like, okay, cool, tick, done. That was probably the only enjoyment part, like
Yeah,
that I ticked
okay.
it off, that I got rid of that anxiety for a minute. And I honestly thought that when I went into like stopping movement, I thought I'm just going to have to live with this feeling. And I'm ready to live with this feeling to get my periods back for my bones and to have a baby. Genuinely, I was like, I'm just going to have to deal with it. A lot of tears cried. It's not as simple as how I'm just saying it now. Like it was tough. But oh my gosh, the more I challenged it, the more I realized like I think it was either like a learnt response from my body that that's what it started doing of creating this anxiety and this fizzing that needed to like release. Actually, and I'm not alone. Like I've had other clients who are like, wow, like that's incredible how like I thought I couldn't live without that and now I can.
Mm.
So it's interesting how like your body can adapt to not feeling that need, that anxiety and that need to release it in some
Mm.
way.
Like a challenge repeat process of do it, don't compensate in another way, sit with it, tolerate, repeat kind of thing. And then
Absolutely.
did you find then with time, like that fizzing or that rip your skin off just got less and less each time it just passed? Like
Yeah.
how did you move away from that rip your skin off?
Yeah, I mean it did. It took time and it was over time that it got better. How did I kept trying to connect back to my values of like why I was doing this. I did a lot of distraction. So if, for instance, I would be exercising in the morning, I'd plan something else at that time.
Mm.
And I wouldn't get up and put on my gym clothes. No. Get up and put on normal clothes. I'd make plans to like meet up with a friend. I would sometimes work like just so that I, when it was time was were difficult, at least then it because part of the exercise thing is you feel productive as
Mm.
well. And so it was like, right, how am I being productive in a different way? Maybe I'd like tidy up a part of my house that I've been meaning to get to for ages, but never did because I was prioritizing other things. So like it was like trying my best to like distract myself from that moment. But then ultimately over time, it was like one day I woke up, I'm like, I don't even care.
Wow.
That's so cool. That's so nice. And one thing as well is I did try to like gradually stop. That didn't work for me. Like in terms of like, so if you've got a particular issue with a particular cardio machine, I'll say, like, because there's people have issues with all the different cardio machines that I've encountered. I personally wouldn't say like stop, like go a few minutes less, a few minutes less, a few minutes less. It could work for you. Like maybe give it a try and experiment to see if it did. But for me personally, it just never worked. I was like, if I've put the effort to get on this machine and start the torture of actually pushing myself to get here, I may as well just get it done. Because if I do a few minutes less, nobody's winning. Nobody's winning. At least like I should feel like I've met the challenge of having like not done it. And so for me, it was more of like a ripping the band-aid off
Mm.
of like just complete. And the other thing is I told my husband what I was doing as well, which is so scary to do with somebody who you live with, is to tell them what you're doing. But that was such a good thing because then I felt like if I did,
Mm.
like it was just that accountability.
It's hard though, isn't it? Because it feels like you're so exposed then at that point, like you're
So
not.
exposed. That's why
But
it
like
took so
in a
long.
year's
Yeah,
time, it won't be hard. You'll be glad for it in a year's time because then you are in a brain that's stopped and it's not a problem. But it's hard with your current brain because it's like, no, don't give it up. But that's almost like part of the challenge, isn't it? Like accepting
absolutely.
help or being accountable, committing to doing it, that kind of thing.
And it's the one for me that you see the payoff so quickly afterwards in terms of your ability to be flexible. Like I remember like one time when I flew to the UK, like you fly to the UK, it's a long flight, you're tired, you're exhausted. The normal thing to do would be to rest. I was so antsy from like being on the plane and da da da. I was like to my mom, I was like, can you take me to the gym? I hadn't slept, hadn't anything. And she was like, we were all out in the garden. Everybody's there having a cup of tea, chilling, catching up. Haven't seen each other for a long time. I'm like, can we go to the gym? I mean, like, what?
It's so not
What?
your values.
Oh my God, it's not me compared to now. Like, just sitting around, catching up, been a long time, having a nap. Like, I don't want to go to the gym really. Like, that was the last place I wanted to, but I just couldn't live with this like anxious
Mm.
feeling. Like, I just wanted it off of me. So,
But then
yeah,
I guess it's that short term wanting it off of you, like looking for those short term fixes. Actually, in the long term, it's not serving you. Like in the long term, it's not giving you a life that's connected, flexible, spontaneous, fun. It sounds like the short term payoff is like sacrificing your life for it, kind of thing.
exactly, exactly. And I really did want to tackle it. Um, obviously, like, I know mums who have this, bless them, and it's so difficult for them. It's almost like they don't want their children to have any issues with movement. So it's like almost like they're bless their hearts, they're trying to hide and cover up everything so their children are not impacted by this and not grow up with this.
What you're saying
That's
about the ripping the band-aid off, I totally
yeah.
get that as well, because sometimes I feel like when you try and do things gradually, in the process, you're
Mhm.
still igniting the eating disorder networks in your brain. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's a little bit less than it was, but you're still igniting it. Like, it's almost confusing to your brain, like, am I trying this? Am I trying this? Like, if I think about it with food, if I would challenge things but only half challenge it or a little bit challenge it or challenge it one day and then not the next and then challenge it the next day and not the next, it was like my brain moved between like eating disorder belief, recovery belief. I just couldn't make sense of it, and
Yeah.
whilst I was still igniting the eating disorder wiring, I couldn't quite get away from it. I couldn't break it, so I can
Yeah.
see it in that sense.
Exactly. You just remind me as well something. I've got a client who's very, very insightful. And she was saying, like, I just had this epiphany of like, why am I? Because sometimes when you're trying to get rid of it, you might just do like a little 5, 10 minute um burst of movement. And she was like, why would I do that? That literally does nothing. It
Mm,
really does nothing, but it will completely ruin my chances of rewiring my brain. Like, what is the point? What is the like, it's not like it's gonna burn a ton of calories. It's not like it's gonna get rid of all my anxiety for the day. It's not gonna do anything, but it is gonna reinforce that eating disorder wiring. So
yeah,
like, what's the point?
love
Like,
that.
yeah, and she's just been saying that to herself, like, what is the
Mm,
point? What am I even doing? And I think that's such a good place to get to.
yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. Is there a thing
Mm.
as well of the brain will be like, oh, but it's for good reasons or it's healthy desires, that kind of thing?
Yeah, because I think it's like the one of the most supported, socially accepted things at all stages of life. Like even when we were pregnant, people are like, start moving, do this. Even when you're after delivery, right, get moving. Like the times when you really need rest, even it's pushed on you. So and I think it never has been more than right now. I think in terms of like just governments trying to push people to get moving. And then I think, I don't know, I feel there's been a recent resurgence of like people in midlife trying to encourage movement for health at a later point. So I think it's a lot. But what I would say is like they're not talking to people with eating disorders.
Mm.
Like people with eating disorders are the minority. And then you start to like say to yourself, well, have I got an eating disorder? That you literally gaslight yourself. Well, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's whatever. It is that bad. And the if it's not making you like a happier, more sociable, more energetic, more joyful, less anxious, generally,
In
not
the
just when you've
long
done it.
term. Yeah, not that
Yeah,
day.
like overall, like not just at the end tick. then it's really not healthy and it's not good for you. And you're probably always going to be somebody who's going to need to like be careful with yourself with that. You know, it's not,
Yeah.
not something you're ever going to be, right, I'm going to go and run a marathon. That was not something I mean, I
Yeah.
physically couldn't do it because of excess over exercising, I messed up my knee. But like, even if I could,
Uh-huh.
like, I would never do it because it's like very
But
solo,
do you,
very
yeah.
numbers based.
Do you feel like, again, though, that would still be igniting old wiring? There's a risk of,
Exactly.
do you know what I mean? Like, even if it's with genuine intentions, you've really passed it now, it's really, but the fact it's there in your history, like it's
Yes.
igniting a historical, you know, belief around it
Exactly.
or routine.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, why would I put myself through? There's so many other challenges you can do in life. And like for me, that one was such a like a detrimental part of my life that really impacted my health in so
Mm,
many ways, impacted my social life, my relationships, everything. So like I would just not go there again.
yeah, yeah. So
But
do you
yeah,
think,
it
sorry.
cool. Yeah.
So
Sorry.
in recovery then, I know you said you went cold turkey for a long, long
Mm.
time. When you want to think about getting back to movement, is it then a case of changing your relationship with it, or like how
Yeah.
do you think about that? How do you think about reestablishing movement once you're like long past the like
Mm.
tying it to food or feeling compelled to move kind of thing?
Yeah, good question. So, yeah, I did t take a long time off it. And one thing, like, I took a good amount of time off was like, so walking wasn't my primary issue with movement, actually. It was other forms of movement. But as I started to recover, my eating disorder, well, walking's fine. Everybody walks. So that kind of took over. And so then, but then Corinne said to me once, she was like, what if I told you not to walk for a month? And I was like, I wouldn't do it. She was
Mm.
like, well, I think you should do it. The fact that it stresses you out. She's like, Sophia, it's 45 degrees, 50 degrees in Dubai right now. It's the middle of the summer. Like, it's actually dangerous for you to be walking outside. And I was like, okay,
That sounds like a good check. Is
she's
there
right once
even like
again.
a asking questions of like if this had no impact on your body, if this, do you know what I mean? If this didn't have any in relation to calories, I can't think of how to phrase the question, but do you know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly.
if
If
this
it
did
was not
nothing, would I
connected
be
to
doing
the
it?
food. Exactly. If it was not connected. So would I still do it? No, I wouldn't have. Let's be
Like
real. I
in a
would
similar
not.
way, like if calories didn't exist, would I eat that? Yes, probably.
Yeah, yeah. Because the thing is, like, your body doesn't even feel like doing the same thing every day, Like every day, like I was walking for I can't remember how long each day, and that was I do the same route, the same time, the same everything. Like, of course, your body doesn't feel like doing the exact same thing. Sometimes it's tired, sometimes it's exhausted, some days it has more energy, less energy. But I was acting like it was like this routine that I had to stick to no matter how my body was feeling, no matter what it wanted.
Yeah, but you also probably at that point couldn't connect to what your body would have wanted, or
True,
because you're so drilled into
true.
routine at that point, you're completely cut off from any intuition or any flexibility, or do
That
you
is
know
such a
what I
good
mean?
point. That's such a good point. Yeah, I was completely cut off. You're completely right. I had no idea really what my body wanted or how it felt. And so yeah, so how did I then deal with it after like that month break, basically? I think I started to notice the things that were keeping me stuck in it. So that would be things like, yeah, walking the same route, same amount of time, same times of day, that sort of thing. So something that I've worked on with another client who's been so brave with this is that she has like intentional no movement days. She has days, she changes the days and the times and the everything and the types of movement. So for instance, like maybe making movement more sociable. So for instance, she's doing like a dance class.
Mm,
So, something like that that feels so much more enjoyable, joyful. Don't need to be perfect at it, You can go the wrong way. Like it's not competitive in that kind of sense. And you can meet people compared to like a very like insular type of movement. Don't
mm.
talk to me, want to get this done, want to tick it off sort of thing. And then yeah, just checking in with like your reasons for doing it as much as possible. I think that was what was key for me. Am I prioritizing something like intentionally prioritize something over it, you know? So it was a
Yeah.
process. It was something I had to be really conscious of.
Yeah, like can I be flexible around this? Also, I think there's a difference between thinking, yeah, I can do it and actually doing it. Like a lot of the time I
Mm.
think like, yeah, of course I can, people would think, yeah, of course I can be flexible. If I needed to stop, I could stop. Like, okay, do it,
Yeah.
And then how does it feel? Because that belief of like, yeah, I could if I wanted to is very different to facing it and sitting with it. And then how do you feel?
Exactly. And also that adds another element that makes it difficult is sometimes you feel like if I didn't have the opportunity to do it, then I don't have to do it. But if I had the opportunity to do it, then I should. And I'm lazy if I don't. That was something that I would struggle with. So sometimes like say they would say like, oh, everybody, no meeting, no work, no like staff meeting, whatever, go home. Everybody's so happy. I was like,
Uh-huh.
that means I should be moving
It's
because
like
then I've got
the
the opportunity to.
self-permission thing to
Yeah.
be able
To
to
be
rest.
like, no, I don't feel like it. Like, why don't I just go and sit down and have a cup of tea instead? Like, no, I couldn't. I felt like, well, then if I have the opportunity, then. And so sometimes I would, like, when I was trying to transition off, I would stay at work for longer just to keep myself busy so that I knew that, like, I wouldn't go home and be like tempted. That was like a transition thing to do. Obviously, going over to overworking is also not an ideal thing to do either. But like when I was transitioning away from it, it was
Yeah,
helpful.
until the impulse to do it became a little bit less kind of thing, and then
Yeah.
you could be like, okay, now I'll just go home and manage myself at home, and probably then like deal with some anxiety of like now I'm at home, my anxiety might go up a little bit more, and then it's like
Yeah,
letting that one come down through distractions at home, something like that.
exactly. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then working through that and just keep thinking like what type of person do I want to be? Like who do I want to be? And I think the bit of like not focusing on other people's movement was a big
I
thing
was
for me
just
to
about to
want.
ask you about that. Like, what about if the
Ugh,
people around you are like say a meeting's cancelled and then someone else says, "Oh, cool, I'll go to the gym then," and then you
which they
think,
do.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which they
And
do,
then you've got to
right?
stick in your own lane and be like, this does not apply to me, or doesn't serve
Yeah.
me.
Because they're bouncing out the door excited, full of energy, excited to do whatever they were going to do. But like, and even you could be looking forward to it just because I didn't look forward to it. Some people probably do look forward to it, don't they? But the problem is like when you have that unhealthy relationship with it, even on the days that you are enjoying it, great. But then the days that you're not, you still feel trapped and feeling like you have to do it. They don't feel like they have to do it.
Mm. Yeah, and it's like testing the definition of what's making me happy or what's serving me kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's making you feel great that day, like that's not going to last forever. It's not an enduring happiness or an enduring sense of feeling great. Like you're not in a year's time going to be like, oh my God, I'm so glad I went to the gym on that day last year. It doesn't
No.
last. Whereas like relationships last, or I don't know, joining in with things, purpose, meaning, that kind of thing. Like those things give you a more enduring and a more purposeful sense of happiness. But if it's that like fleeting, I feel good for a day and then it's gone, I have to do it again the next day, I feel good for a day, it's not enduring, it's not meaningful, it's not values aligned,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I'm not saying that movement is bad. Like, there are some benefits to it it's not like everything related to movement is disordered. There are definitely people who move in happy, joyful ways. But it's a tool in their toolbox. If they're
Mm.
having a hard day, one thing they could do is go for a walk to get fresh air.
Yeah,
There's
it's not
nothing so,
exclusive. Equally, if
it's
you
not
had to stay
exclusive.
inside and watch a box set,
Yeah. Yeah.
how old am I? Watch a Netflix series. I've not touched a
The
box
other
set in
day, Hanai was
decades.
like, "What, mummy? What's a CD?" I was like, "Good Lord, yeah, yeah." God, we are so dated. Yeah, exactly. But that it's like that one thing, and if you don't do that thing, it negatively impacts your anxiety and your mental health in so much of a worse way. But yeah, it was a hard one when other people would do it. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't easy. I honestly cried. Like there
Mm.
was genuine tears shed just watching people like go for a walk or whatever. Because yeah, I did in my knee. And I literally couldn't. I was literally had to sit. I dislocated it, so I was literally
Oh.
couldn't move. Which I honest now I look back and I'm like, wow, thank you, life, for
Ah,
doing that to me. But at the time, it was just awful. And like watching everybody move, and I went on holiday and I just seen people play volleyball and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm really not a volleyball person at all, but it was just the concept of them moving. They were having a great time. They were laughing and joking or whatever. But it was just for me, I felt guilty that I wasn't moving and they were.
that
Um,
also shows how like the fragility of it, that like you're only okay if you've ticked all your boxes and done your routine and blah blah blah. But chuck in an injury or an illness or bad, well, maybe not bad weather, but chuck in like life circumstances which do happen, which would stop you
Yeah.
doing it. And then how do you cope with that kind of thing? Like it's very much
Yeah,
like I'm only okay if everything's perfectly okay.
absolutely. And it's just like that need to do it no matter what. Right. This was a time when I realized it had become a problem. And then I've tried to forget about it. I was living on my own. So did whatever I wanted exercise wise. So in the mornings before work, I would like go to the gym. I got in my car to go. I think it was freezing cold. It was icy. It was awful. Anyway, I was driving and a car went into the side of me, like literally boom into the side of me. Completely their fault. They pulled out. I was so stressed about the fact that I could potentially be late for the gym. And if I'm late for the gym, then I might not get the equipment that I wanted. And that if I'm late, then I won't be able to do my full workout and I'd like then to get to work on time. I left. I left the scene without getting their details. I was just like, okay, fine,
It's more
bye.
important.
This is more important. And then I got to the gym. I called my mom. I was like, this is what has happened. She's like, why did you not get did you get their car registration? I'm like, no. And she's like, nothing, not a telephone number. No. I was like, wow, like
Hmm.
that was such a indicator to me, like that was being valued so highly on my priority list, like that I didn't care about anything that just happened, just nothing could get in the way of that.
Hmm.
Um, and I know that
Yeah.
sounds more extreme, and there were times when it was less extreme than that, and it was still a problem. But it's just like such a stick out memory to me, like of a time where that was so important to me.
Yet sometimes those kind of moments give you a bit of perspective on it, don't they? Like a knee injury or that being in a car accident, my goodness, and prioritizing
Yeah.
the gym over that, where you can kind of realize, like, oh, wow. Because sometimes when you're in your own routine and whatever, and you've got it ticking over, you don't feel like things are such a problem because you've got it
Yeah.
under control. But when something pushes you out and then you can't cope or you can't adapt or you behave in a way that you're like, what was I doing?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Then it makes you question everything. So yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to mention with movement is often it's quite like numbers based. So it's funny because everybody who does exercise, like who's had issues with exercise, they're like I'm not, generally people with eating disorders, I've noticed are very intelligent people. Like everybody who all my clients that I've worked with, I'm like, wow, you are so intelligent. And so people rationally know that the calories burnt on a machine or the steps, whatever, are not accurate. And yet there is this need to meet that number whenever you do it. So, like, I felt like I needed to burn a number of calories, even though I realistically knew it's a load of rubbish.
Hmm.
How can the calories one person burns be the same as the same amount of another person burns? Or even the machine itself is not going to be perfectly at running. Like its electricity is going to be variable and things like that. But I felt like I had to do that and or the number of minutes or whatever it is. And I think for some people, the number of steps that wasn't a thing for me, but I know that that could be for some people. So there's always like this focus on numbers, and I think that's a big red flag when you're focusing on the numbers and like then you're less in your body and thinking like, am I enjoying this?
Mhm.
Is this joyful? Am I having fun? Do I need to stop? Am I tired? Because you're focusing on the numbers for like validation of whether you've done enough.
You've been driven by targets and yeah, externals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not questioning, is it serving me? Is it getting in the way of things? You're kind of a bit blinkered then to
Yeah.
like being
Yeah,
driven by
exactly.
numbers. And how do you
Exactly.
break that then? Just deleting the apps.
Yeah, and I didn't even have an app, to be honest. It wasn't really a big thing then. I think these days,
Right.
like apps and things are a bigger thing, right? But thankfully, back then it wasn't for me. But I would say, yeah, delete apps. For me, it was the machine that I would read the numbers on. And then I'd keep note of what I achieved. But obviously, when I stopped the machine, I didn't have that, and I never tracked steps. So that was thankfully not a thing for me. But I think that was the big thing of like needing to move away from a cardio machine. That
Hmm.
helped a lot to just like detach that
Lovely.
number.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What about like lower level movement or things like not taking
Mm.
a lift or an elevator, like taking the stairs, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's huge for a lot of people. It wasn't massively a part of mine, but yeah, I guess it was there, but for some people it's like it's really tough. That lower level movement is, or even yeah, like feeling like not able to sit down for too long and things like that. It's a really big part for somebody. I honestly think it's where people have heard something sometimes and it gets stuck in your head
Right.
that you
Uh-huh.
need to be like, and it just never, I never read that. Like that wasn't in the magazine of my time, I think. Like that need to like stand up
Hmm.
after a certain time or whatever. Like, so I've never had an issue with it. And I think it's just sometimes you hear this messaging and then it goes in your head and then you feel like this need. But also, I think like Tabitha Farrar has talked about the fact like of this idea of like when you're starved, like your body feels like it needs to move, it needs to migrate.
Migration.
Yeah, so you feel like you need to move. So sometimes you just have this need to move around a lot more than normal. And that's because your body's like, I want food, I want food.
Mm.
Um, which
Yeah.
is interesting.
Is is there maybe some band-aid a bit with that as well? Like say stairs, for example, rather than taking the lift, elevator, if you're American. Just being like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Like even if you're like, oh, but it's harmless, it's not a big deal, or I could stop if I wanted to, but just stopping, like igniting that wiring kind of thing. Like, no,
Yeah,
doing it.
exactly.
I will
Exactly.
stop, sit with the
Yeah,
discomfort.
exactly. Like I think that's what you're saying, coming back to that, like, is it worth it? Is it worth me not being able to like rewire my brain to like just do these stairs and do it instead of doing the elevator? And like if I was with somebody and they wanted to use the elevator, I don't know, maybe you're wheeling somebody in a wheelchair. Would you be stressed out about like having
Not
done the
me, to be
lift?
fair.
There
You
would
in
have
that
been a
lift.
time, Meg. There would have been a time. I'd be like, I'm gonna press
Watch
the
your
button.
people's
I'll
up.
see you at the bottom. All right. Yeah. But I think you have to think of these scenarios because they come up in life and then you're like, wow, this is even if you do it, you're like stressed out around the fact you're doing it. I mean, imagine if I hadn't challenged all this stuff before like giving birth, where you're
Mm,
just literally laying on a bed.
mm.
Well, I was anyway for like a
Yeah.
long
I
time.
was for, well, never made it to 9 months, but I was for like
Yeah.
7 months before giving birth.
Yeah,
But literally
exactly.
bedbound my entire
Exactly.
pregnancy. And by the way, ever since, like I've not moved my body in 3 years. I mean, I love
Yeah.
children around, but I've not intentionally moved my body. So to have the
Yeah.
flexibility to be like, okay, my priorities have shifted now. The kids are my focus, what they need, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you've just reminded me of something to think about as well, is that like one reason why I also went through a phase of like, I'm gonna go to the gym to get my bones strong. That was never really a part of my eating disorder, that bit, but then I think I must have done a DEXA scan and they were like, oh, you need to weight lift or whatever. And so I was like, oh, that's a reason to move. That is a reason I can tell everybody why I'm moving. I am not doing it for my eating disorder. I'm doing it to get my bones strong. Now I'm like, look, there is nothing more detrimental to your bones than having an eating disorder. Like the
I
reason why your
agree.
bones were bad was because you were undernourished, you didn't have a period, and then I was adding exercise on top of that's all only a stress. That was building nothing. That was ticking eating disorder boxes. That was not building any of my bones. I'm not a doctor, but I do not believe that that was doing anything to help me. Like if you are nourishing yourself, you're getting a period and then you're doing it in an amount that's safe, that's a whole different story under like supervision and
I was
everything.
gonna
But
say, I feel like there you need a doctor who really understands, who isn't
really
just looking at
understands.
normal medical in quotes, but understands you because you're a net impact of a person. Like if you're doing one thing that, even if it does support you in one way, if it's completely detrimental to your social health and your relationships and your whatever, your brain and blah, 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 like
Yeah.
overall, is it serving you? Like finding a way that you're genuinely supporting yourself, like as a whole person and a whole
As
being
a
and a
whole
whole life,
person.
you know?
What's the point in okay, let's say that it does massively transform your bones, just focusing on that one thing of weightlifting. Not that that would happen, but let's just say it does. But then you lose all the other aspects
Yeah.
of your life and your ability to be flexible. Wasn't there a study that said like longevity is actually created from social relationships with people? Like that's the biggest
Quality of your
indicator.
relationships.
Quality of your relationships. Thanks, Meg. The quality of your relationship. So it's like, why would you sacrifice that is joyful now and in the future benefits you to like focus on this one aspect of your life? And like eating disorder have a ton of issues with health. So it's so funny how the eating disorder can focus on like that. I'm going to improve my bone health by doing that, but
Mm.
everything else can go out the window because I've got
Yeah.
one reason to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You are not a bone. You are.
Yes.
Lots and lots and lots of different things. Plus, you can support your bone health whilst also looking after everything. I think having that person who can understand it from all perspectives and can help you find ways to support yourself that's, yeah, not going to be detrimental to another area of your life.
Yeah, I told my bone doctor. Do we have the same bone doctor? I can't remember.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
I actually told him, I said, look, I've got osteoporosis because I had an eating disorder. I feel like I'm very open in saying that now because I'm like, maybe then you'll know for the next person if somebody has it, maybe to ask those questions. Even when I was pregnant, I was like, I had an eating disorder. I was like, I'm very, very confident saying it now. So I said that, and he was like, okay, because the key for you then is like make sure you always keep your periods. Like he was very like so I feel like I've got a good one. And
Mm,
so if you don't have a good one, make sure if you have access to it, it's difficult these days,
mm,
to make sure that you advocate for yourself and find somebody who is aligned with that.
Yeah, and then
Mm.
people still make stupid comments, like even like the pregnancy thing. I was the same, I would say it as well. And I was
Mm.
still told like, oh, you're gaining weight above where we'd expect you to on the chart of normal.
Yeah, I remember when you said that. It's like, what?
Like,
What is this chart? We just
yeah,
know too much information these days. Like back in the day, they were not charting
no,
you.
and too unpersonalized as well.
Mm.
I'm going to blanket give you this statement, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm sorry. You know my body.
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult thing to challenge when there is so much health messaging out there and so much like misinformation even within like
Mm.
or misinformation or understanding through medical professionals as well.
Yeah, or not tailored to you and your circumstance with other things going on as well, like not inclusive of your mental health and your social health and yeah, relationships and like,
Yeah.
long term what's going to make you happy and serve you in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Did you do any like unfollowing, social media cleansing, not seeing certain friends for a period of time? Do you know what I mean? Like managing your environment a bit to make it as supportive
Luckily,
as possible.
yeah, luckily when I was having my eating, so I'm going to really like age myself. I don't think that I was really into social media that much back then. I don't think I did definitely didn't have Instagram. Um, it was just Facebook really. So that was yeah. I'm so old, aren't I? Like there was definitely not a TikTok going on.
Facebook and box sets, we are
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
Looking
I'm
back.
proud of it. It's this, yeah. Um, yeah, no, I thankfully there wasn't that. What I did, yes, of course, sometimes people would say stuff, and then I remember thinking like, I'm in my own lane. I'm in my own lane. I'm doing my own thing. Good for them. They can that's them. But I've got different goals. I've got different health legacy. I've got a different thing going on, and that's fine.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and so it's I think it's an important thing to be able to kind of like separate yourself. And then anything that would remind me basically,
Mm,
whether I had like books or anything about it.
mm. Even like, would you throw out exercise clothes, that sort of thing, trainers, get rid of equipment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're not ready to do that, then hide it. Just
Mm,
don't have it like don't have it on your top drawer. Like put it in a case under your bed. Just put it away. Like, and sometimes that can feel less scary and less daunting than like literally throwing it out. You'll probably find that you're going to throw it out at some point. But
mm,
like for now, just do that, then it feels less in your face. So
mm.
have something else different as a reminder.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Oh, Saf, thank you. This has been so interesting. Like, I love talking to you about it and hearing about your experiences and what helped, and just like it helps me learn as well. So, hopefully, it's been helpful to other people who might struggle with this. But yeah, I have loved talking to you about it. And we've got our course coming up. Recovery in Action is starting on Sunday, November the 9th. And it's all around tools to use in the moment. So, when you're trying to make changes in your life, you're setting goals, you're trying to action them. How do you actually do that? Like, how do you achieve your goals? How do you make changes? How do you, in that moment when you're like flooded with anxiety, still do the thing you need to do anyway? And I know we've spoken a lot about it in relation to food goals, but do you think it's also helpful, that kind of thing, in relation to stopping movement or challenging yourself around exercise?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It will be massively helpful to that because it's basically the tools that you can use in the moment that can be applied to either food related ones or movement related ones. And obviously I've used them in the moment for movement as well. So I really have like walked. what that experience of having applied them during my own recovery. So then if anybody needs support during the course with how to apply it to movement as well, like I'll be
Mm.
there. And also during the course, we'll be giving examples that you can apply to food and also in relation to
Mm.
movement. So it's these tools are going to be able to be applied to all areas of your eating disorder. So it's a really powerful one. Yeah, so please do join. And that actually somebody who spoke on the last podcast, the first person who spoke, um,
Oh, on the bonus episode of the
the
podcast about
bonus
recovery in
episode.
action, where we interviewed past participants.
Yeah, thanks, love. Yeah, exactly. That that episode, the first person that spoke, she made the most insane changes in relation to movement.
Good.
And she feels so great for it and so free from it. Like,
She was
yeah.
incredible. Yeah, the changes she made,
Oh,
just committed and went for it, and
yeah.
yeah, reap the rewards
And she's
after the
somebody who,
discomfort.
did it for so long. And she was even like somebody who competed at a level doing it. So it was so ingrained. She doesn't want to have a baby. She does, it's having a
Mm.
baby or, that's not even her priority right now in life. She just wants to be free. Like she just wants to wake up in the
Shackles
morning
off.
and not have to do it. She wants to be herself. Like she wants to be back to who she is. And she knew that the eating disorder was always hijacking it. So like you don't need to want to get your period back or get pregnant or whatever it is. You can just want to be able to wake up in the morning and lay in bed and not
Mm.
feel like you've got to do something or just not have that as your to-do list or not feel that exhaustion. It's unbelievable that the change it's made to her life from being able to challenge that.
Mm. Brilliant. Yeah, she's done amazingly.
She's so, yeah, we're so proud of her. So, yeah, absolutely. Please, if you are interested in the course, do sign up because this is the last few days. And then, yeah, because we're doing one-to-ones. So, please do get in contact
Yeah.
sooner.
Yeah, we're doing
Yeah,
one-to-ones to meet people before we start the course. I suppose we could do it the first week of the course running as well, but
we
basically a
can.
quick
Yeah.
like discovery session to get to know you, to help you with goal setting, to think about how you could benefit from the course. And then midweek as well, each week we'll have a check-in with you to see like what goal you set, what tools you're using, how it went, that kind of thing. So I guess
Mm,
stuff like if they're setting goals around exercise, that you can give them that feedback on like
absolutely.
these are tools which could be effective or tweak it, try this, just even that support through enduring the discomfort, tolerating the discomfort, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Goal setting, everything, and how to like what you can use. I told you about some of the factors that I use to kind of like stop myself from being conscious of that movement part when I was challenging it, whether it is around the clothing or making plans or whatever distractions. So, yeah, I can absolutely help you with putting all of those factors in place as well.
Yeah, and so we're running two cohorts, and particularly the first session, which caters more to like Asia, Australia, New Zealand kind of time zones. So it's 8:30 a.m. Dubai time.
Mhm.
So it would be too early in the day for UK and US probably, but time zones that are later than us. So yeah, Asian countries, Australia, New Zealand. That one, we still have space on that one. And then there's a later cohort as well, which is 5 p.m. Dubai time. So that would be
Mhm.
better for UK, Europe, American kind of time zones, like time zones which are behind us. And then there's sessions on Sunday and Thursday. So
Mhm.
Sundays we go through content, we talk about tools and how to apply them in the moment. And then Thursdays we run a Q&A and you can ask questions and we'll answer them live. So both on Sunday and Thursday there's those two time slots and you could
Mhm.
join either of those based on where you are and what time works for you. But just DM us, message us on Instagram. If
Yeah.
you're interested in it, we can answer any questions that you've got. We can have this discovery call with you to get to know you better and
But
then
yeah, please do get in touch with us. And also, just to let you know as well, it's all going to be recorded. So if for some reason you're not able to catch it one week, you will be able to catch the recordings. So
yeah.
yeah,
Cool. Okay, hopefully that was helpful and speak to you soon, Saf. Bye.
yeah, speak to you soon. Bye. Sound okay?
Brilliant. Honestly, absolutely brilliant. I feel bad
Yeah.
that I don't know it enough to ask very good questions, but you
You
spoke
asked amazing
amazingly.
questions. You were so good. You were so
It
good
was
at
very
it.
interesting. Like I was like, oh, let's.
I'm laughing because my sister was like, so my sister and my mom only watched the recent podcast. It's like the first one they've done, watched. And then my sister was like, it's really cute how you guys nod at each other. I was like, And then I watched it back a bit, and we're both like, like, yeah,
Trying to cheerlead each other, like, yes, that's
yeah, I know, yes, you're right.
rewarded our
Oh
kids.
my God.